Hey everybody, and welcome to our next Arrow review, episode 2, which is titled Honor Thy Father. I suppose we'll just start off. What was your initial impressions of this episode?
Well, the first impression comes from the episode title, which we couldn't talk about last time because it was just the pilot. But the title here is a bit of a double meaning. Oliver is honouring his father by crossing off names on the list, but also the case Laurel was working on, which also ended up being a case Oliver worked on, was about a daughter trying to get honor back for her father who was wrongfully killed. So there's that double meaning. But despite that, I think they could have named it better because I think an important part of the episode was also Oliver coming back from the dead, so to speak, because his legal resurrection was more important than you'd think because it brings up the conversation of how Thea and Oliver became quite distant now that he's back, and Thea admits she felt closer to him when he was dead.
Well,
And now it's like their relationship is kind of messed up because they don't know how to talk to each other. Like when he was dead, she felt like she could just go to the grave and talk about anything with him. But now, while she still can, like, she's not hiding things from him. Like when she was going out, she didn't make up a lie. She just said, "Yep, I'm gonna get drunk, don't wait up." And because she's just like, what are you gonna do about it? You know, she feels that distant that he's maybe she feels like he's not gonna care, or maybe it's more like she doesn't care what he thinks, and that's why she was being honest about where she's going.
yeah, but I guess this just reminds. Every time I see Thea, it always reminds me how much I don't like Thea in season 1. I know they try and justify it by saying, oh, she's suffered a lot, but it just comes off as being an annoying, edgy teen who thinks, oh, look at me, I've got a lot of problems.
Yeah, but like in the first episode, she admitted, like, Mum had Walter, I had no one. You know, she had lost basically her best friend she could tell everything to. And that kind of messed her up in some ways.
Yeah, but I suppose getting back to the first point, I suppose the name just really had to pick a lane because the episode basically has two parallel plots. One about the main plot, which is taking down this episode's bad guy, and then the ongoing plot of what Oliver's going through with his family and how he's getting on with everyone.
Yeah, and the running theme um, throughout most of the show, but especially in this episode, is about how you're viewed because not just in terms of like hiding his face when he's the arrow, but also when it comes to with his family because they wanted him to take over, and I think he felt he wasn't ready to, because a leadership position in a company just doesn't suit him. And um, in a way, it's like the only people who don't understand him are his family because Moira and Walter wanted, um, or maybe they were tricking themselves into thinking it's right for him because it's what they want. But it's funny that everybody else that um, that knows about this agrees that Oliver shouldn't take the position. Like Laurel gave good advice, and it feels like she was more mature than Moira and Walter. But also not just Laurel, but of all people, Diggle seemed to understand. Like he explained, you know, home is where they're trying to get you to open up and be somebody you're not sure who you are anymore. And that's a big theme, especially in this season, is, you know, they're trying to get you to be someone you might not be anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, this episode really goes from 0 to 100 with Diggle. Last episode, he was pretty much a one note bodyguard, who just Oliver keeps running away from. Here, every time he's alone with Oliver, he actually gets some scenes that really show he really knows what's going on. Or at least he has some suspicions that Oliver's more than he says.
Yeah, exactly. Like when he brings up how Oliver perfectly threw him a knife, and Oliver kept just claiming he got lucky, but Dig knew better. He said, no, that was weighted perfectly and thrown just the right way for me to catch it. And Diggle's probably thinking, well, how could he have learned that on an island? You know, the story they got was that he just was alone on an island and just had to survive. But yeah, Dig is starting to realize that that can't be true, and he's probably starting to wonder, what did Oliver get up to while he was gone?
I suppose, to be fair, Oliver could have came up with a better excuse than I got lucky. He could have also said, well, I had to learn to hunt and stuff.
True, yeah, he's not that good at lying sometimes.
Yeah, but getting back to Oliver the Company, it's also, he's got a double reason. On one hand, no, he's not ready and he has gone through a lot, but he just doesn't want a job where he's tied down, because just like with the bodyguard, he's always going to be sneaking out to do stuff, which becomes an ongoing plot for him and other characters throughout the show. Their jobs are always in jeopardy, whether it's Oliver in a company or certain other people in companies or positions whose jobs just keep getting
But then again,
ruined.
later on, he does end up running Queen Consolidated. So
Exactly, and that becomes an ongoing problem. So Oliver was trying to avoid it from the start.
yeah, I remember later on. There's that woman he works with, and I think they have to take her with them when they go on what they claim to be a business trip, but it's really for something else. And it it comes so close to people possibly finding out about stuff, and it gets really hard to hide things.
Well, that's the thing. The first two episodes have done is, even though it seems like okay, at first it seems okay, it's a simple here's like one villain and that's it, but it sets up a lot of ongoing themes or characters or threads that just follow through the season or even the whole show. Like, okay, last episode was a pilot, but this episode we've met another character who just seems like a random villain helping him out, but now you'll later learn that China White comes back regularly.
Oh, yeah. Especially when we find out she's tied into the stuff Moira talks about. Like, in this episode, it was also revealed that the boat was sabotaged. And we don't know who Moira was talking to. Well, we do, but as viewers seeing it for the first time, we don't. All we know is that someone else was holding the same book that Oliver got from his father.
Yeah, but that, to be fair, that's two in a row, because last episode ended with her talking to somebody about Oliver doesn't know anything and he was kidnapped purposely just to figure out if he knows anything.
Yeah. The question they wanted to ask was, did his father tell him anything?
This episode has a lot of cliffhangers, because then there's, of course, the cliffhanger of we finally realise, okay, he's definitely wasn't alone on the island.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was easy to figure out for the audience, but now we've finally seen something's happened.
Yeah. We finally see somebody else on the island. And that somebody else on the island gives us a bit of mystery ending to make the episode interesting. Like, it makes us want to keep watching to figure out, who is this person? Are they friend or foe? Well, at first it seems like they're not a friend because he shot him, but he could turn out to be a friend.
Well, it's also interesting because it's not just he's been shot. He's been shot with a bow and arrow by somebody in a hood, which at this point obviously leads into you've never seen
it's
this
his time traveling self. I'm joking.
Exactly, but that's the thing though. As you've never seen this before, you're going to have a lot of questions on how this does connect with Oliver.
Yeah, because obviously, as we now know, somebody gave him the hood and taught him to shoot arrows.
Moving on. Is there any point we missed?
Well, this episode also had a lot, even more progression with the relationship between Oliver and Laurel. Like, at first, she resented him and hated him, and then he told her to stay away. And, at the beginning of the episode, she said, yeah, that was good advice when they bumped into each other at the courthouse. But then, when Oliver decided to open up to somebody, he chose Laurel, and she actually let him in, and it's sort of her way of also opening up to him and saying, yeah, I'm ready to act like friends again.
I guess, but this episode just reminds me how much Laurel always annoys me, because the show just keeps backflipping on what they want to do with Laurel. Right now it seems like she's a friend, but then she'll be drama, and then there's drama with Tommy, and then there's a whole love triangle thing. It just keeps going back and forth, and they're already setting it up now.
Yeah, like when it comes to Oliver, the interactions are a bit messy, but when she's not with Oliver, I think she's a great character. Like, in the first episode, her friend Joanna said we're not miracle workers, and again, when Laurel said she was doing her job, Joanna said she was actually doing the DA's job and like going above and beyond when it's not her job to get justice. But so once again, she wants to be a hero and get justice whenever she can. Like her father said, I will lock you up in a cell if that's what it takes for you to stop acting like this. And she said, well, then that's what it will take. And she's really determined to make the world safer. It just reminds me of the TV show Medium, because the main character in it, she's just, her official job is a legal consultant, but she goes above and beyond. Even when they say this is out of our jurisdiction, she says, no, we have to bring this person to justice, no matter what.
I suppose that's a point I've never really thought of, is any time I'm annoyed by Laurel, it's a scene with Oliver. I've never thought about the fact that most times when she's not on screen with somebody, when she's on screen on her own, and it's not Oliver or possibly Tommy, she's usually a better character.
Yeah, it's like when I said she'd fit in better in Central City. She's a hero without powers, without weapons, anything like that. She's one of those heroes that are plausible enough that they could exist in real life, because she hasn't got powers or any crazy talents like Oliver has. She's just good at being a lawyer, and I think that's a good character to have on TV, because it's good to remind people that there are ways of being a hero in real life. But then again, when we see the conversations with her father, we can see that being a hero can be dangerous.
Yeah, but also, that's the thing, this reminds me of what Laurel should have stayed as. I think that's the thing, she should have stayed as this, which is why I always liked Quentin as a character, because they never try to push him further than just being a regular person. With all the other characters becoming heroes or vigilantes or whatever, it's the one person who stays a grounded, real person.
Yeah. Well, then again, the only reason she ended up becoming the Black Canary was because she felt like someone had to after Sarah died. If it weren't for Sarah, then she would have just stayed as being a hero by being a lawyer. And I like that. That suits her.
But getting back to this episode, have you figured out what you'd give a rating for this episode?
Yeah, I think I'll go 7.
7.
It's pretty good in terms of, like, it manages to continue things we introduced last time. It manages to improve some things and show us more about the characters, and it explores interesting themes like how you're viewed and how to be an everyday hero as well.
Yeah, I'd probably have to give it a 7 or 8 this time. It was a lot more interesting than the pilot. I know the pilot is a pilot and it's slow and it's setting things
Plus,
up.
there's the mystery ending that makes us want to keep watching.
Yeah, but that's the thing. This episode has a surprising amount in it. It's a lot in this episode, and this episode surprisingly is sets up more than the pilot itself did.
Yeah, I know. Like, to the point where, some shows, like, I can't remember an example, but I've seen a show that had like a 2-part introduction. This could have been a 2-part pilot if they wanted to. Like, this follows on from the first one really well, and it would even, like, if you put the first two together, they would make a great pilot together.
Yeah, I suppose you'd just change the format a little and it'd make a better two-parter.
Yeah.
But I suppose that wraps everything up. Next time we'll be on episode 3 of Arrow, which is called Lone Gunman. We'll see you next time.
Yep, bye. I need to stop saying that.